Well, I think it usually starts with somebody who is struggling, or maybe someone who thinks that they can try something a different way. That they ask themselves, this isn't quite working the way I thought it was going to, and I've spent all this time in planning and it just didn't work. Well, therein lies the problem with personalized learning, is that it looks different from person to person. We try to put some definitions to it and we try to explain it, and before you know it, we've taken the personal out of the personalized learning. But I think in order to really execute, you have to believe in and utilize a reflective sort of teamwork approach, creating a custom path that person can go through in their own time, and in long as it takes for them to master what it is they've decided they're interested in. Now, it's not without guiding, but we do this so that they feel empowered by the end of it, so that when they actually learn and master what it is they're trying to do, they don't look back and say, well, that's because of so-and-so. The personalized approach is, I did it. I went and found out what it took. I went out and practiced and studied, and that's the personalized approach. Is empowering each learner to go find what interests them, which you won't know until you ask them and learn about them, and then assisting them along the way. Not doing the work for them, but taking sort of a hands-off coaching, I'm here if you need me, I'm here, but I'm not going to jump in and rescue you approach. Now, you might say, like, why do all this when, who has the time? But it really doesn't take as much time. It takes time out of it takes time, it actually gives you more time with each learner, and it enriches that time that you do have. An empowered learner at the end of the day is not just going to sit there and say, yep, I've got it, I'm all done, now I can move on to my next area of study. And they're going to want to go share that with others. And then once they're empowered, they can go show others how they got there too. It's a great cycle. It really is. They're then inspired to go do the same and be that person for somebody else. So that's why we use it.
What that looks like for students is when they are given their kind of like their own path, like their own voice and choice. It's more of they're still learning the district, like the curriculum and standard, and then they kind of get to take off with that. They get to come up with ideas of how they can show or perform their knowledge or understanding of that standard, and then they get to, instead of being given or prescribed an assignment or an activity or lesson, then they get to choose. Sometimes they come up with that on their own, and then sometimes they might have to have like a bank or choices from it, but they can still have their choice and voice, and then they can demonstrate their ability and their knowledge on that standard to show whether or not they've mastered it. Having that personalized learning piece, where kids really like chose their own pathway based on where they were in their learning path, and it might not be exactly how everybody else can demonstrate it. It makes a big difference when you think of the old traditional, like I said before, sit and get style of education that we probably all, were part of, versus when you walk into a classroom today and they have, kids working on different projects and activities, and you have kids making videos, and you have kids doing stories and writing books and building things, and it's all connected to the same standard. I think that's pretty amazing. I think that differentiating and personalized learning, there is a big difference, because it can get kind of muddy, but personalized learning is more, the teacher takes on the role as a facilitator. I feel like they let the students know, here's the standard, this is what it looks like, this is what we need to know. How do you think that you can show this? What do you want to do to show that you have mastered this after being taught the lessons and stuff, instead of just maybe taking the standard test or assessment that everybody else gets.
I think the most closest neighbor is differentiating instruction, or the universal design for instruction. there though you have still that element of prescriptive natured content where you sort of what the students need to know, or what you've been asked to teach them. So there's that choice is sort of removed. You have to get to know your learners in that differentiated piece, which is great. You want that in personalized learning too, but you're doing so that you can help them get to the learning target as fast as possible or as an efficient manner as possible, so they can really master that concept. But it's still a concept that you've told them they need to master. So that's where personalized learning, and I think differentiated instruction sort of part ways. Is I've taken it upon myself to make that choice for you, what you're going to learn today, what you need to know, and in the time frame that you need to do it. That's not really the goal, right? We want that person to gain that interdependence and that resourcefulness and that feeling of, oh, I have to go share this with someone. I've just learned something amazing. Whereas in differentiated instruction, of course, we just learn that we're all doing this together in the same setting, and so you don't have quite the same effect. Well, I think anyone who decides to invest in or adopt a personalized learning approach has done so because they recognize that engagement piece is not what it could be. That learning data or students themselves are just leaving year to year, and they're not seeing what they see in the classroom on those days where things are just really flowing. Or you really want that feeling all the time. How can we make sure that students don't just feel excited on the days where they're learning that one thing they know they're interested in, they've been looking forward to, but how can we tap into that every day so that now not only are they engaged, but the families that they go home and talk to and the friends that they go after school and talk to about, they're picking up on that energy. How can we tap into that engagement every day? And I think anyone who takes that serious, be it a school, just a classroom teacher, a principal, a district itself, is usually going the personalized learning approach because they're starting to see, oh, this can be done a different way. My students can love school. It can be this place where they get all of their needs met, not just academic. And that's the great part of personalized learning too, is as you sort of shore up academics, well, of course our students are interested to come to school. They're getting to learn what they want, and in the time frame that they need. They have all these support systems. My teachers now know what I'm working on and can help me when I need that help. My classmates, my friends, my peers, all my other teachers in school, once they know that someone always has their back academically, wow, now all of a sudden we have all this extra this resource of people freed up to help them actually navigate through those developmental milestones as well. And it can really become just a whole systems approach to personalizing what learning is for that individual, and do it in a way that it affects the whole school or the whole learning climate of wherever you're at. And it can be a really beautiful thing once it all starts to coalesce and come together.